So, let's talk about the stupidity of democracy. Well, let's talk about the stupidity of democracy here in the United States. Democracy in the United States has basically led to lots of prostitution and idolatry of women, so that money is exchanged for sex and for naked, nude pleasures of women constantly, and so that women will imitate being children on phone sex operator lines regularly, more than half their calls. At least one operator told me that. So that's one result of democracy. A second result of democracy, drugging of an entire population, where they call it medication, yet as you get older, you realize they're party drugs, actually. People that use the same drugs to party with are the medications given to human beings. Let's see. Another result of democracy. Slavery being put into legal action, where slavery was a legal part of the system until a war tactic, the tactic during the Civil War of Abraham Lincoln, was to free the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation. Let's not forget that Lincoln did the largest mass hanging of Native Americans, where he hung the most people at the same time. Okay? Now, slavery was taken off the books with the Emancipation Proclamation, but it never stopped. In fact, the replacement became the federal penitentiary system. The first one was founded in Louisiana, I believe it was Angola, soon after emancipation. Sharecropping never stopped, and some people say slavery only stopped maybe in the 1970s or 80s, that people were still living on farms where basically the slave master or the farm owner, the plantation owner, owned the person's house, owned the store that they shopped at, and pretty much kept them on the farm all the time. Now, what we've done is we've exported the plantation model to places like Guatemala and El Salvador and other smaller countries in Central America. Now, that coffee that you get that has that great fair trade stamp on it, I'm sure that fair trade is real. I'm sure you don't get coffee from a coffee plantation. And I think the usual model for a coffee plantation is where 50 to 200 workers sleep under a big canopy. They work in the morning until night, and they sleep under a big canopy together. They don't get their own residence. And let me let you in on a secret about the coffee industry. The workers keep their children with them at all times. And beginning around age 3 or 4, when the children are smart enough to learn and listen, they make those little children work alongside and reach inside the coffee bean plants to get those inner beans so they don't break any of the branches off with those big adult arms and hands. So that coffee that the entire world loves to drink, that's where it comes from. That's one of the factors that made me decide to stop drinking coffee. Of course, no industry is perfect, is it? Now let's talk about the exportation of labor. A lot of people like to say that the United States has been taken advantage of by China due to their labor practices. The reality is Chinese people have been paid slave wage labor to do jobs that we didn't want to do here in this country, manufacturing. The progression has been China, India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and now Myanmar. The saddest thing is people try and hide all this stuff or try not to think about it. But let me ask you something. How do you make a stupid little thing made of plastic, send it halfway across the world to us, and we're still buying it for like $1 or $2? These people, you know, it's ruthless. Some of these textile warehouses have 10,000 workers in each factory. These factories, 10,000 workers in one factory. Now, what I think happened is the Americans realized that manufacturing was polluting the waterways, polluting the environment, and they thought, hey, maybe we can stave it off in the United States for a little while longer if we send all the polluted stuff over to another country. Now, I'm going to give you a twist on that. Here's that big twist. Fuck the United States of America and fuck democracy. The United States of America's flag has 7 red stripes on it. They represent 7 red stripes of blood, were to remind people that they can still whip you or torture you using law enforcement and judicial processes. Now they've incorporated the psychiatric method, 5150, Baker Act, danger to yourself or others. So nowadays, you don't have to do a crime. Someone can make an anonymous call and say you're dangerous and have you hospitalized. At which point, if you don't know how to sit like a Buddha and keep to yourself and honestly resist the fucking magic powers, including those works done by the Pope and his minions, and I mean the Pope of the Roman Church and his minions who come into these psych wards after their priests come and speak to you, then they send in the magic people who fuck with your head. And I've documented this when it happened to me. So deal with it, live with it, and think about this. I've heard the stories and I've seen the tragedies. I know what goes on worldwide. I used to teach adult ESL, and I taught students from all over the world English how to speak at the basic level for years. So let's not even get into the oppressive evil that the United States military has done. Just like the Caesar, the Caesarean section, that section of Roman history, where they took the women and impregnated them and created a whole order of slaves and soldiers and whores. The brothel system. Row, man. That wasn't about nothing except for having one dude in charge of a bunch of really strong dudes, and that one dude says, row, man. And you either fucking row or you get whipped. And then guess what they do to you later? They gang rape you. Which brings me back to slavery. They not only raped the women and sold their own children and the children of their children who they had sex with the slave women so they could teach their sons and daughters how ruthless and evil they were. They also raped the men. It was called buck breaking. That's the history of the United States of America. That's democracy. Do you really want a bunch of drugged out fucking drunk weirdos who like hooting and hollering about Donald Trump in one breath and Jesus Christ in the next breath? I think they watched one too many Disney movies about Ariel, that mermaid. Read Isaiah. Ariel means altar of blood. You fucking right. It's an ancient name and word meaning. So lots of weird shit going on around here. And let's talk about the American medical model. Why is it 2 flying serpents wrapped around a scepter or a pole or an Asherah pole? A stripper pole? I don't know. Fucked up to think about that too. When you were a little kid or when you had kids, did you say, gee, I hope my daughter grows up to suck dick for money? Or to let people come inside of her for money and then take an abortion pill the next day? Or actually go to the doctor and get the baby killed and murdered? Oh, science is great. The only problem with science is it requires you to experiment upon human beings. And we talk about white supremacy and white power. Fuck all of you. But you know what happened is Getty, when he developed the super tankers for carrying oil, went on over to Saudi Arabia, talked to the king of Saudi Arabia, and they created an oil market controlled by Saudi and USA. And the US dollar was the only thing used for trading oil. That's actually changing now globally, which has probably got the United States of America, the people at the top who actually understand shit, scared as fuck. $33 trillion in debt, and in the past 2 weeks it's gone up $500 billion to $33.5 trillion. That means every person in this country, the United States of America, from baby birth to old, owes $100,000 to some politicians who signed off on some contracts. That's called indentured servitude for the entire country. So, democracy is a failure. You got to understand when Rastafari talks about destroying democracy. I'm 100% on board with that shit. Fuck this place. This is the unsafest shit. And let's talk about justice. We let murderers, rapists, pedophiles, which are people who like to get sexual with children, and human traffickers, which is another special word for slave trading, just like that special word abortion is for murdering babies. So, anybody understand yet what I'm talking about? Probably not. And I'll tell you how fucking special democracy is. We don't even have voting day as a holiday. The day that we vote, our country, this blessed United States of America, founded on democracy. Let's vote and pick who's leaders. We don't even have voting day as a holiday. Yet we have Labor Day to celebrate going to work, which is what separates us from our families and our loved ones on the regular in this country. And these days, a lot of jobs you have to have open availability, and a lot of jobs don't even pay a living wage in this country. And heaven forbid someone in your family gets sick and has to go to the hospital. That will cost you more than a house costs. Someone in your family gets sick, you have insurance. You go to the hospital, or your family member goes to the hospital. Next thing you know, you owe $500,000. So, I don't know anybody who really thinks that much anymore, and I don't really talk to that many people anymore. And no wonder. My ideas are wacky and out there. In fact, so wacky and out there that these power families that I grew up around in Reston, Virginia, framed me and set me up in Fairfax County now. This year and last year. And they're such fucking geniuses. They use their power and authority to turn the subway metro train, the Silver Line. They turned the subway train underground. They turned it around between East Falls Church and Ballston this year. And Jennifer Wickham had the genius idea to actually say my name over the loudspeaker on McPherson at the McPherson station earlier this year too. So these Reston people are idiots. And whoever gave them all this authority forgot that they're a bunch of drug addicts and drunks, which adds that moron factor. So, yeah, I'm awake. Yeah, I live in a tent. Yeah, it's nighttime, and I live in Washington, D.C., and no, the city has not helped me with shit barely. But I'm trying to resolve that because apparently I'm impatient and I'm kind of abrasive in my language. So I usually keep my mouth shut most places I go, or when I speak, I'm as polite as I can be. Because from what I see around me all the time, I'd like to beat the hell out of some people or put them in the graves for what I see them do regularly in this city. And in fact, I've been attacked here, had business owners lie about me, and had the police smirk in my face and say, that's not what they said. Just mind your business from now on. Well, let me ask you something. Why do you think a bunch of yellow, red, brown, and black and light-skinned people joined the white military and joined the white police force in this nation? And especially in this fine capital of Washington, D.C. It wasn't to wear Klan outfits and burn crosses and celebrate good old fucking Uncle Sam or fucking Colonel Sanders, was it? Nah. So, that's my take on democracy. I guess I won't be running for any public office. Or maybe I will. One last thing, dickhead president number 45 said that he could shoot somebody in the face and kill them on Fifth Avenue and still get elected. That's how dumb democracy is. He got elected. And that's how dumb America is. Y'all need to get off the drugs and get off the sauce. Deuces. All love from God's people. And I am with God's people.